Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barik wasallim. نويت تعلم وتعليم وتذكر وتذكير ونفع وانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحسن التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى مع لطف وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إني أسألك علما لما شاء صفي هنيها بغاني. اللهم إني أسألك علما لما شاء صفي هنيها بغاني. اللهم إني أسألك علما لما شاء صفي هنيها صلى الله عليه وسلم محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. ربنا واجعلنا مسلمين لك من ذريتنا أمة مسلمة لك. ربي هب لي من لدنك ذرية طيبة إنك سميع الدعاء. ربي اجعل هذا بلد آمنا واجنبني وبني أن أعبد أصناما. ربي اجعلني مقيم الصلاة من ذرية ربنا وتقبل دعاء. ربنا اغفر لنا ولوالدي يا رب اغفر لوالدي يا رب اغفر لوالدي يا رب يوم يقوم الحساب. ربنا هب لنا من ازواجنا وذريتنا قرة اعين واجعلنا للمتقين اماما. ربي اوزعني ان اشكر نعمتك التي انعمت علي وعلى والدي وان اعمل صالحا ترضاه وادخلني برحمتك في عبادك الصالحين. ربي أوزعني أن أشكر نعمتك التي أنعمت علي وعلى والدي وأن أعمل صالحا ترضاه واصلح لي في ذريتي إني تبت إليك وإني من المسلمين. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. Mention your intentions. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah. Alright, so we are actually going on the discipline. Right, because this part he actually talks a lot about disciplining your child when they do terrible things. Last week we spoke about when they do good things. Right, and when they good things, right? So Sheikh Hababa actually mentioned. That's why I like in the book that I use when I learned with Hababa, because she mentioned things that is not in the English translation, right? So Sayyidina Muhammad, right? So we are at the verse 69. I'm going to go back a bit to take a bit more of what was taken in this book. Right. لا يفتخر بمطعم ومشرب ولا بشيء صار من ملك أبي ثم ليعظم غاية العظام من كان ذا جهل من الأنام والوالدين كل والمؤدبا والأقربين نسبة وصاحبا وإن ظاهر فعل الجميل منه فينبغي بأن يجازى عنه وأن يبجل قدره ويمدح بما به بين الأنام يفرح وإن فعل فعلا ذميما سرا فينبغي ألا يعتب جهرا ولا يذم بين أصناف الورى فإنه يخشى بأن يتجسر ولا يبالي بعده بالعدل وبالملام عند كل فعل بل ينبغي عتابه بحيث لا يعلم عليه أحد من الملا يقول هذا إن علم عليه فاضحة فلا تعر إليه ولا تكثر عنده الكلام فإنه يهون الملام يخشى بأن يجزم ولا يبالي بما أتاه بعده من فعله. Alright. So here, right, I'm going to go into the part of when they do bad things. Right, when they do things that are undesirable, right? How do you handle that? And from the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how he handled bad behavior, right? Or this mistakes that the children might do, right? So before that, right? So her Baba, when she was teaching this, she mentioned that because he says here that لا يفتخر بمطعم ومشرب ولا بشيء من صار من ملك أبي. Right, so that means not to boast, right, about what you have, right, not to allow them to boast about what their fathers have, right, so not to go around boasting, right, to other children, right, and here, right? It is said that because in Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam there was an incident in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam whereby it was the day of Eid, right? It was a day of celebration, right? And the children were all out there, with their new clothes and with their, like celebrating that Eid, right? And then there were 2 orphans in Medina, right? And they were sitting by the side, and they did not have anything that was new for them to celebrate with, right? So basically, they were poor, right? Poor orphan boys, right? And here, and they were feeling sad, like watching the other kids, have their stuff and their parents and whatsoever. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right, saw them, right, and he took them to his house. He took them home, right, and he dressed them up. He found some clothes. He dressed them up, right, until they were, they felt better about themselves, lah. And then he hugged them, and then it began to smell like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they went out into the streets, right, and from the blessing of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they were, they outshone everybody else, lah. In this the way they were, lah. Right, and then to the point where all the children who were there that saw what happened, right, all of them wished they were orphans. Right, so as to get that kind of special treatment from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right, so basically Rasulullah, he was someone who was very particular and very well aware of the feelings of others. Right, so he did not, to show off your ni'mah, to show off your blessings. It is something that is insensitive towards those who don't have. Right, and you can't say, they'll get over it, let them get over it. No, right, it's not the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that we show off. Right, so to hold back, not to show off, not to show what you have, not to show, the whatever lah. The showing off is never something that is recommended in Islam, right? And this world, in fact, this world is so low with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that if your child begins to be proud or to boast about things of this world, right, then remind your child, because at this age, the age of 8 or 9, they can understand things, right, that you can reason with them, right, and just ask them, why are you boasting about this, right, this weighs nothing in the next world, right, why are you going around telling people, about whatever you're boasting about? This is not something that that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises your deeds, your actions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves all of these things. So in a sense, it is a mindset change. Right? It's a mindset change. Right before this, we were talking about all those teenage things that they show on Nickelodeon and on Disney Channel and whatsoever. Right? That is basically boasting. Right? The entire thing on Nickelodeon, on Disney Channel is all boasting about what? About looks, about stuff, right? About dunya, about fashion, about this, about that. It's all that. So if you allow your children to be growing up on this kind of, filth, right? Basically they're being fed, right? Since they're young, that is important, for your hair and your face and your whatever, and your fashion, everything. You know what? We don't care. Right? As Muslims, you don't care about all these things. We don't allow them to be brainwashed by these people. Right? These people that is so shallow. I watch it, I'm like, you get so annoyed. Right? So how shallow this is. If you watch all those, you remember your past, when you Allahu Alam, like how many of you actually watch Nickelodeon? But I used to watch when I was young. I used to watch Nickelodeon, we used to watch Disney Channel, whatever. If you reflect now, you go and think of that time, it's all shallow stuff. It's so shallow about what, every episode, what they do in their high school, in their middle school, in their problems, in their friends and whatever. It's so merepek, right? Right? But what were we? We were taken in. We were so taken in by such nonsense. Subhanallah. Right? That's why we took some time to mature. Because it's so immature. That's the word, it's immature. Right? So, don't allow them to go into that. But rather, engage them in a more mature dialogue, right? Engage them in more things that matter, right? Things that actually matter, right? And the sad thing is that some people, they never even mature out of this. They go into their marriage, right, with all of these petty things still important. These are not important things. They become petty in their adulthood, and then that's why you have all these problems surfacing with the people, right? Because in their adulthood, right, petty, small, tiny, petty things, right, becomes a problem. And how to live? And I wonder how do you live like that if every tiny thing is an issue, or what people say, people do, right? Just grow up, basically grow up, right? And think of what is important, and that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? right? So, and understand that whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you, Allah gave Fir'aun more. Tell them that. Allah gave Fir'aun more. And where is Fir'aun? Right? Fir'aun is in the hellfire. Khalas. Right? Allah gave Abu Jahal more. Allah gave Abu Lahab more. Allah gives the dunya to those who He loves and who He does not love. Right? So it's nothing that you should be proud about. Right? Because basically you're getting the same that Fir'aun got. Right? That's nothing to be proud about. Right? Fir'aun got all this dunya stuff. Right? You're not going to go around and say that I also got the same thing as Fir'aun. Like no one's going to say that. Right? But what do we, try to strive for? We try to strive for things that the pious got. Right, of their righteousness and their taqwa and their good deeds and their khidmah and all of these things that we push them towards. Right, and then here, right, she mentions about when they do good deeds. Right, we mentioned good deeds, right, that we praise and we do reward good deeds. Right, good deeds. If you want to praise and reward them for marks that they have obtained, then make it sure. Right, make it clear that if you do reward them, you are rewarding them on the effort, right, on the effort that they have put in. And in fact, it would be advisable, right, that the reward came right after the effort. That means before the marks come out, even before the marks come out, if you see them work so hard, right, for their test paper, for their exam, for their whatsoever, like in school, like so a lot of parents they wait until the results come out, right, and then they reward the results, right. But actually, what should be rewarded? It should be the hardworkingness, and how hardworking they were, how good they were, how much they focused in class. All of these things actually is higher, right. In fact, when we were in school, there is this, the government rewards. There's a good progress award. And then there is a scholarship award. Right? So the scholarship award goes to the top 5% in the cohorts or the top 10%. And every year the same people who get it. Right? Every year the same people who actually get this award. Then there is good progress award. Right? The good progress award, right, is actually a very good initiative for the government. Right? I always thought it was it's a good initiative. Because the first one actually I don't really like. I always get this, but I don't agree to it. Right? Because it's always, the same people get it. The same, every year I see the same faces. Right, every year the same people get the scholarship award from the government, right? But the good progress award, that one is good, right? Because that one the government encourages progress, right? That means you improve from this to this. It means so you're rewarded, right, on your effort to improve, right, yourself. Right? So as parents, like if you're now in exam season, right, you have kids having exams and whatsoever, if you do, right, then reward the effort. Reward the effort and show them and bring it and link it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards effort, right? Not the result. Allah does not result it, or the result is Allah's to give, right? But Allah rewards effort. So if you see them putting good effort, right, then that's where the praise comes in. And if you want to give gifts, you can. And however, she said that rejecting dunya does not mean you cannot give gifts. You can give gifts, right? But focus on the good. Right, focus on the good act. Right, so and make sure the gift does not equate, right, the act. Right, in a way, it is less. It's much less. So it's just a gesture. That's all it is. It's a gesture, right, from your part. So you say, I was pleased with what you do. I was pleased with how you handled that. I was pleased with, the way you spoke, right, to your grandfather, to your father. I was pleased with how you held your anger. I was pleased with you in doing that, right. And then you can reward that. You can reward. I was pleased with how you controlled your anger. I was pleased with how you addressed people, whatsoever lah. Whatever good traits, right? We reward them. You reward the good traits of your children, right? So you reward based on the action, right? And but she also said, don't do it all the time, right? Don't do it all the time, right? Because if you do it all the time, right, then it becomes numb. Right, they become numb towards the first thing, right? And you keep having to bring it up, right? So if now you give like one sweet, after one sweet tak jalan, right? They won't do it for one sweet. You need 2 sweets and 5 sweets. You keep having to up it, right? So don't do it all the time, right? But do it here and there. Right, here and there, and try not to, up it, right, or have to have a bargain or whatsoever with them. Right, try to make them do it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right, focus on Allah subhanahu. So basically, this gift, it's not really, it's a gift. It's not really a prize. Right, it's not really a prize. It's a gift. Okay, it's a difference there. Prize is basically you earn the prize. Right? But a gift is just me to showing my appreciation on what you have done, and I was very pleased with that. That's some of the ulama say it's enough for you to just give them a hug. Enough, hugs are free. I give them a hug and a smile and appreciation. And sometimes children, that's what they want. Right? They want acceptance. Right? They want that, okay, no, ahsanta, ahsantum. Right? You did well. Right? I'm very proud of you. They want those words. And sometimes they always want those words from their parents. Right? So, and I always like, and even for adults, sometimes you just want your parents to say something, of like what you're doing. Do you actually believe, in what I'm doing and everything? So I remember when I was studying overseas, initially my father, he was never ever pleased with it, ever. Like he was not happy that I chose to ditch engineering and go on this path, right? But then I still remember that that when there was something once I came back from my studies and I was about to leave again, right? And I still it's actually in my head. Right? Whenever he said that, I'm pleased you're doing what you're doing. He just said that. No, I'm pleased you're doing what you're doing. Right? So and then it's enough for as a child. And you hear the father say, okay, I don't understand what you're doing, why you have to do this, but I'm pleased that you are doing it. Right? Alhamdulillah. Right? Then the child, you feel that it's alhamdulillah, it's a rida from the parents. Right? So at this age, start to show that. Like show it and get the fathers to show. The fathers need to show. As much as, for me, I know my mother is happy with it. My mother's always been happy with it. Right? With me going study overseas, study in Islam and whatsoever. My father never showed happiness with it. Right? So sometimes the father, you just need the father to just say something. Right? And just encourage your husbands, just say something to him, just tell him or her. Especially the son. Especially the son, right? Just say something to him that you're pleased, with what he's doing. You're proud of him. You're proud of his efforts, his achievements, and everything, right? So so the mother encourage the husband to express himself more, right? It is Rasulullah says that he loved women, right? And he loved women in a sense, not in any way blameworthy, but he loved women that women are more expressive in their love, they are more expressive in their emotions, they are more merciful, right, towards those who are around them. Women tend to have it easier, right, in doing that. Right? Men tend to have it harder in doing that. And then you have the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Once he kissed Sayyidina Hassan or Sayyidina Hussein on the head, right? And there was a Bedouin who was there, and this Bedouin man said, "I have 10." He said, "Do you kiss your children?" And I was saying, "Yeah, we kiss our children." And then he said, "I have 10 kids and I've never kissed one of them." And he said it in a way of showing off. Like boasting, "I have 10 kids and I never kiss my children." Like it's a manly to not kiss my children. Yeah, it's like, we are men, we don't kiss. We don't kiss children. So what ladies do, like girls do that, right? Women do that, right? So sometimes that's what the Bedouin was, and that was the way they were. They're harsh, right? We don't hug and kiss children, right? So Rasul turned to him and said, "What do I have for someone whom Allah has removed mercy from his heart?" Right? That means this is not the way. The way of this religion is not that. Right? And also he would always honor his daughters, and Fatima Zahra. He would always honor all his daughters, right? And he would go, right, when his daughters are in need, he would go to them. There was one, Sayyidina, if I'm not wrong, Sayyidina Ruqayya, if I'm not wrong, her child, right, was an infant but dying. Right, from an illness, dying. And she called to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Come, right, your son is dying," right, meaning your grandson. Your son is dying. Rasulullah came, right, and he carried the child, right, and the child breathed his last in the hands of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a small baby, right, and then Rasulullah, he began to weep, right, and the Sahabas asked, "Ya Rasulullah, what is this?" Right, and then he said that what is from the eyes is mercy. Right, so he's teaching the Sahabas, because we have extremes. You have women are emotional. Right, so women need to take some from men, right, to be more rational when it comes to emotional situations. And men, right, they tend to try to not be emotional. They try to not to show, but they need to show a bit. They need to come to a center point, right? So as mothers, right, you encourage your husbands, right, to at least show the children. Right, be more gentle to them, be close to them, be more expressive. It's going to be a bit hard for men, right? But they can, right? Of course, we know fathers love their children. We know that, right? But it's a man thing, and they find it very hard to actually express themselves, right? It's small things. And at the same time, the mother plays a very strong role between father and child. The mother does a lot in between. So to actually talk to the child, especially when they're growing older, when there are disagreements with them and their father, right? Or they don't understand what their father wants, or they feel afraid of their father, or they stay away from their father, or whatever. They tend to have a distance, right? The mother is the one who will talk to the child, right? To let the child understand the father. Right, why your father is like that? Why is he, whatever. The mother has that role. It's a very important role that she plays, right, between her and her husband and her children, right. So she says here, right. So make it that the praise and the reward is unexpected. Like how Baba said, So make sure that the praise and the reward is as if it's unexpected and extra, right. Not that they were working for it, right, but it just came out of nowhere. Just give it. Right, and your intentions in doing it is very important. Right? Why do you actually praise and reward your children? Right, so it's not for us. So don't think that to give them rewards is against having them be ikhlas in their deeds. No, right? Of course they can be ikhlas. At the same time they can have reward because it's Allah Subhanahu wa Taala Sunnah. Right? Allah Subhanahu wa Taala wants us to do this for the sake of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, but at the same time Allah promised paradise. Allah did promise paradise, right? So because all human beings, especially children, we need incentives. We do, and we need deterrence, like hellfire, right? So the consequences can also be said. You can't just say, but not in a harsh way, but say, if you keep doing this, do you know what will happen? Right? Do you know how this will turn out? Right? And that's what he's going to mention later on. Right? He's going to mention about when they do bad things. Right? What do you say to them? Right? How do you speak to them? And the entire time when it comes to disciplining, right, the rule of thumb is don't raise your voice. That's the rule of thumb. Never raise the voice. When you're trying to discipline your children, do not raise the voice. Right? Speak calmly, speak firmly. You can speak firmly, but you don't raise the voice, right? Firmly. All right. So here, then he says, right? وَإِنْ فَعَلْ فِعْلًا ذَمِيمًا سِرًّا فَيَنْبَغِي أَلَّا يُعَاتَبْ جَهْرًا. This is a very important law, right? So he begins from first step. The first step, if this person did something blameworthy or something wrong, but secretly, it was in secret or it was within the house, only you knew of it. Right? Only you knew of it. Then he says, never, ever, ever, ever scold him in public. Don't. Right? Don't do that. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not do that. Right? There's once a story of a man whom Sayyidina Umar caught stealing. Right? So when he was caught stealing, the man said, Ya Amirul Mu'minin, let me go. It's my first time stealing. And Sayyidina Umar turned to him, Sayyidina Umar said, you liar. Right? Allah will not expose you if it was your first time. Because Allah does not do that. Right? Allah never exposes the first time. Allah exposes the second, or third, or fourth, or fifth time. Right? That means if you do a sin, and all of us, it, you do a sin one time, the first time is not known. The second time you try again, the third time you might be exposed. Right? So Sayyidina Umar straight away, he knew it. He said, you liar, it's not your first time. Otherwise Allah will not expose you like this. Right? So subhanallah. So if someone does something secretly, it's on you to honor his dignity. Your own child has dignity. Honor his dignity. He did something secret. And there's a hadith whereby Rasulullah said that whoever covers up the faults of his brother in this world, Allah will cover up his faults in the next world. And your children fall under that. Right? So it is blameworthy, right, for mothers to actually tell other mothers, right, of the sins of your children. You go and tell everybody, right, about their sins. It's actually wrong. Because they are human beings. And they are, sometimes you feel like, once you do something wrong, suddenly all your aunties know about it. All your whole family knows about it. Right? You feel embarrassed. Everybody knows about it. Right? It's actually wrong. That is actually wrong. Right? For you to actually, open up the eye of your own children. Right? You are primary, over covering up their aib, right? Covering up their faults. You are the first one to cover up for them. That does not mean you don't reprimand them. You do reprimand them, but secretly. Secretly. Right? My family, there's 7 of us, and I know that my mother, every time she wants to reprimand any of us, we are put into the room. That's it. Right? Put into the room, just her and us. Right? Just her and the one person who has that sin. Right? Or that wrong. Right? Nobody else is in the room at all. And so nobody will know what you did. So your own siblings have no clue what happened. Right? In fact, it will happen without even anybody else knowing about it. Right? So it will be like, she'll be like, come here. So like, then just somehow other she found out about something, right? And then she will just, reprimand. But very gently, she won't even raise her voice. She'll be like, I remember we were teenagers. So for me, I remember every single time she did to me, all the wrongs that I did, right? It is all, and I have no idea about my siblings. I'm sure they also kena, right? All of them confirm kena, but none of us know about each other. None of us know about each other, right? So she would just like, come to the room, and then she'll be like, okay, I stumbled upon this, right? I found it in your bag or in your clothing or in your whatsoever. I found this, right? I don't want any explanation. She doesn't have any explanation. Don't have any explanation for you all. But I'm sure you know, right, what is the hukum. Right? If you don't know, then the hukum is this. Right? She'll just say that. Because we're all teenagers. You should know better. Right? And I'm sure you can decide for yourself what you want in life. Right? So basically, treating us as adults. And when we were teenagers, she treated us as adults. Of course, in primary school age, right, it has to be guidance. Right? So in primary school age, she will confiscate. She will actually confiscate whatever she found. Right? She will confiscate it. And they're not allowed to have this. Right? That's it. Okay, but of course, in secondary school age, she would not confiscate. She trusted us to get rid of it. So, because it's a lesson. Right? You have to choose for yourself, the right path. Right? You don't expect me to choose for you when you're a teenager. You choose for yourself the right path. You know the hukum. You know all this. But it's really training, right, up to the age. So, I look back, I'm like, wow, mashallah. Like, what were they doing, like, to us? Right? But alhamdulillah, it is detrimental, right, to actually keep screaming at a person. It does harm how a person views right and wrong. Right? Screaming, shouting, angry, right? It does harm a person's perception. Right? So it does do damage to a person. Right? So here, right? Here he will say, right? وَلَا يُذَمَّ بَيْنَ أَصْنَافِ الْوَرَى فَإِنَّهُ يُخْشَى بِأَيْ يَتْجَسَرَ. Right? So he says that don't scold this person in front of everybody else, because when you do that, you will begin to instill in this person a lack of shyness. That means he will begin to not feel ashamed anymore, because you keep exposing that person. When you keep exposing a person, then it's as if you have branded that person to be as such. And once he is branded as such, then he will accept in himself that he is as such, therefore I am. Therefore I'm a bad person. So he will do more bad things. Right? Because he's branded to be naughty boys, to be mischievous boys, to be this, to be that. Then they become branded, and they don't have any more shyness anymore. They're not ashamed of their actions. They do it in the open. That's even worse. Right? They do in Islam, right? In Islam, the fujjar, right? The fujjar is the criminals, or those who do sin in the open. Right? In the open. In Islam, that is the terrible form. Right? The one who commits sin in the open. Right? When he commits sin in the open, if he wants to tawbad, he needs to tawbad in the open. Right? It means if you commit sin openly, right? And you want to tawbad, you tawbad openly. Because why? Because when you commit sin in the open, what you have done is that you have made a wrong right. Like, you've encouraged a wrong. You have encouraged a wrong in society. It's corruption. So when you go out there and you tawbad openly, then you have undone what you did. That means if a person is a celebrity if you're openly, or you're on Facebook and you used to do all kinds of nonsense on Facebook or whatever, and then you tawbad, right? It's just a part of your da'wah that you actually say that you tawbad from this, right? It is wrong, it's not part of Islam, it's that is your tawbah. Because especially if you have followers. If you have followers, then you must retract whatever you did in the open. Right? It's like doing sins in the open is not it's not easy. It's not easy to actually retract. Right? Because you have caused damage to the people, right, who saw the sin. That's why when it's come, the hudud laws are about things done in the open, because you destroy the fabric of society. Right? So keep it secret, he said. So if your child does something bad secretly, you keep the reprimanding secret also. You keep the reprimanding secret. It's on you to keep it secret. Before he even talks about how to reprimand, no, he's talking about the adab of reprimanding. The adab of reprimanding is keep it secret. That's the first adab of reprimanding, right? And then, and he says that, and if you don't do so, then you will instill in your child. You might, not that you will. You might instill in your child, getting used to sin. Right, getting used to being naughty in the open. He's okay with it. It's no longer something shameful anymore. Right, he's okay with doing all of this. He's okay. Right. And then وَلَا يُبَالِ بَعَدَهُ بِالْعَزْلِ وَبِالْمَلَامِ عِنْدَ كُلِّ فِعْلِ. Right. So and he will not care about any more nasihat. He will not care about any more blame, any more censure. He will not care about any of these things. Right? Because like you keep scolding him in the open. So for him, it's like, you know what, and we see it happen. We see it happen in primary schools, we see it happen in secondary schools, we see it happen because a child keeps being blamed in the open, right? He has branded himself, right? And then he doesn't care anymore, whatever, I'm like that, right? So subhanAllah, it's all wisdoms of the scholars of the past, right? So Imam Ghazali, right, he says here, فَإِنْ خَالَفَ ذَلِكَ أي ما ذكر في شرح البيتين الأولين من الجميل نحو في بعض الأحوال مرة واحدة فينبغي أن يتغافل عنه ولا يهتك ستره ولا يكاشفه ولا يظهر أنه يتصور أن يتجاسر أحد على مثله لا سيما إذا ستره الصبي واجتهد في إخفائه فإن إظهار ذلك ربما يزيده جسارة حتى لا يبالي بالمكاشفة بعد ذلك. Right. So Imam Ghazali, he says, if it happens the first time, I know he's going in levels there. So if a bad thing happens the first time, and first time take it as a mistake, or take it as just basically bad judgment on his part. And everybody you're allowed to have bad judgment and you're allowed to make mistakes, right? So if it happens the first time, Imam Ghazali, right, actually says that of course at this age, if they don't know that it is wrong, then you have to inform them just nicely, this is not a right thing to do. It's not right for you to do this. Okay? So for example, cheating. Like cheating can start at the age of primary school. They start cheating, right? Or lying. Right? Lying, most kids know lying is wrong. And most kids know cheating is wrong. Right? They know, right, at this age. So if you find out the first time that they are cheating or lying, you just say that I learned that you were cheating. Just say that. Right? And so Imam Ghazali said, just say it. Just say that you know. Just say that you know. I know you were cheating. And walk away. First time. That means first warning. So no scolding, nothing down. Imam Ghazali said, don't scold. Just say. Because you know where cheating lies. You know. So, are you lying? You say, oh, I know you're lying. Walk away. What do you want to ask? There's nothing to ask. Right, I know you were lying. I know you were cheating. Just to highlight what was done. Right? And then walk away. Let them think for themselves. Right? You're basically building taqwa. You are building taqwa. You see, when you keep scolding, then they begin to depend on you or begin to do things when they know that you can see. And when you cannot see, they will do it. You see that? So what you're doing right now in a small small phrases that you give them, you're actually building in their hearts a taqwa. Right? That they themselves, by themselves, they want to stay away from this terrible thing. Because there's no consequence from you. We're not, punishing them anyway. We're just saying, I know you cheated. Give a straight face, walk away. Dah. Right? Dah. So disapproval lah. Disapproval. They don't have to say anything. Because later on he will say, وَلَا يُكَثِّرْ Sayyidina Muhammad. He says here later on, وَلَا يُكَثِّرْ عِنْدَهُ كَلَامًا. Don't talk a lot. Don't talk so much. Don't. Right? فَإِنَّهُ يُهَوِّنُ الْمَلَامَ. You make them bored. Right? They get so frustrated with you. You're so boring. Right? You keep nagging. You keep talking. You on and on about the problem, about the mistake. You keep going on and on and on. And then we cannot stop. We can't stop ourselves from going on about what wrong your child did. So Imam Ghazali says, first time round, actually in fact the first round he said, just let it be. He said the first round, let it be. Maybe they will repent themselves. Second time, say it. I know what you did. And walk away. Third time, now he says. So now and then, وَإِنْ عَادَ ثَانِيًا فَيَنْبَغِي أَنْ يُعَاتَبَ سِرًّا. Right. So actually the first one that I actually skipped, right, was actually ignore it. That is actually Imam Ghazali's advice. The first time round, if you know, especially if you know they know it's wrong. They know it's wrong. They know cheating is wrong. They know lying is wrong. They know it. Right? And you find out about it, that means they know that you know. You don't do anything about it. That's right. It's really it's a concept. But the ulama, they do it. Right? They do it. They just leave it be. And we see in the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he actually does not scold. Especially the first time mistake, no scolding at all. He just walk away. So we mentioned last week, Battle of Uhud. Battle of Uhud it was a grave mistake, but it was a first time mistake. Right? So as parents, you need to identify when are first time mistakes. First time they did that mistake. First time they didn't know better. Or maybe they did know better, right? But it's the first time wrong, right? What does some do in Battle of Uhud? Not a word. Just nothing. No scolding, nothing. Right? This is after Tamyiz, Before Tamyiz, you're still learning. Okay? Don't do it to your 3-year-old. 3-year-old, you still have to, they're still finding their way around. Okay? They need guidance. Right? This is after 7, 8, 9 years old. Right? 7, 8, 9, when they know right and wrong, they know. Right? So for example, very clearly, they hit their brother. Oh, if a 7-year-old hits his brother, or an 8-year-old hits his brother who's younger, you just give a face. You just give a face and you walk away. Right? Then that will drive down to them the point so hard. Right? That you're already that old and you're hitting your brother. It's straight away, they will not. But if you nag and you scream and you shout and whatever, they become defensive. And then, like last week we mentioned, they begin to justify why they had to do what they do. Right? When you keep quiet and walk away, you don't give them a chance to justify. They get no chance to justify what they did. Right? No, none at all. No argument, nothing. I'm not even going to talk about it. Right? You go handle yourself. In a way. Right? That is the key behind it. Right? You don't even allow them to try to think of an excuse of why I hit my brother, right, who is 4 years old. Right? In a way. Just walk away. It's like the things that when I learned this, I was like, Subhanallah. If we can just do this. Right? But we have the proof in the Sahaba. The proof is there. The Sahabas did it. Right? The ulama of the past, they all did it this way. And their kids grow up well. They're not going to be spoiled. Right? They're not going to be spoiled. Right? So for us in Islam, we don't believe in the notion spare the rod and spoil the child. We don't actually believe in that notion. Right? Because there is no rod mentioned so far. So far there is no rod being mentioned. Right? The entire disciplining of the child happens by talk. talk, instilling in them values, instilling in them love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, instilling in them a lot of things, and then connecting with them, right? Or the entire disciplining of a child is connection, so that they can function by themselves. That's what you want to do. You want to bring up a human being who is self-monitoring. Like, he does not need external forces to make him good. He's by himself inside. Like, he forces himself to be good. That's what you want. Right? Because you are going to go off of this world. You're going to get out. Right? He's going to grow up. He's going to go to live his own life. You don't want somebody who keeps having to be checked on. Right? It's terrible if you have a child who is, in adulthood and you still have to check on that child. Then what have you been doing for all these years? If you still have to check on your child, right? He's in adulthood. Let them live their lives. Khalas. Right? So then he says here, then if you censure him, or if you scold him in the open out loud, that will make him numb towards scolding thereafter. He becomes numb. He doesn't care, about any censuring, any advice. It just flies past him, just goes past, right? And that is what you don't want, right? You don't want that to actually happen to your child. And say, so rather, ينبغي عتابه بحيث لا يعلم عليه أحد من الملا. Rather, right, you should only reprimand your child in a way that nobody knows about this. No one knows. It means, so your child also feels that with the sin that he has done, or the wrong that he has done, you are still respecting him. And that is the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? So when the Sahabas they messed up at Uhud, right, he did not say anything about it. On top of that, he consulted them with the plans of war, in the strategies of war. Right? So after you messed up, he still consulted them. After they messed up, he still, okay, what do you think about this? All right, okay. And he considered what they had to say, which means that even though you made a mistake, you have not disqualified yourself as a human being, right? That means your opinions, I still want to know, right? So even though my child has made a mistake, right, I'm not, you still deserve respect and honor from me, right? So I don't expose you and disgrace you in front of everybody else. No, I won't do that, right? But I will honor I will honor you, I respect you. I will, reprimand you in secret between me and you. That's it. And then not a word thereafter. Never to be mentioned ever again. Right? It's one time reprimanding, right? Reminding. So it's a reminder, right? And thereafter, ever again, it will not be mentioned. It will not be mentioned. Right? Subhanallah. And I do remember my mom doing that to us. Right? That one time she put us aside secretly, talked to us. Thereafter, she never mentioned it. Ever. Right, so that mistake is done, is finished. Not again. She doesn't say, that time you did that. Remember that time you did that? Right, she never, ever. So alhamdulillah, and she didn't tell anybody else at all. So what happens then? Now you have this trust with the mother. As a child, my mom knows I did this, but she never talked about it. After that one reprimanding, she left it. Right, and so that it is this connection and trust with the mother, right? Yeah. Right, she did not, because she treated us, each of us, as a Muslim. You're all individual Muslims, especially was after we were in secondary school and so on, after Balik, right? So it means you're all individual Muslims. You have a right to being covered. Satar. You have a right to being covered, even in front of your own siblings and even in front of your own father. If he does not have to know, he doesn't have to know. Right? She gets a secret. Alhamdulillah. Right? So, and then you feel safe, in a way. And no one else knows about it. Right? And then it also makes you taubat. Right? Subhanallah. So he says here, what do you say to them? Yaqulu, right? Say to them, هذا إن علم عليه فضيحة فَلَا تَعُونْ إِلَيْهِ. These are the exact words. You can remember the exact words, right? So this, if people know about what you have done, right? But no, so use the people also, to warn them. Right? And tell them Sayyidina Umar's story also. That second, third time round, Allah might very well just expose you. Right? And one of the things that my mother, when I was growing up, that she always, drove to us was that, because I was young, I was in this fear, that she told me once that if you keep doing a sin, and you can keep repenting on the sin, but if you keep doing it, one day Allah will turn away from you. She just said that to me when I was very young. One day Allah will turn away from you. You don't want that, right? like, do you want Allah to turn away from you? You keep doing a sin. Do you want that? Then wake up. And you must stop doing it. Right? So this is how she engaged with us when we were growing up. Right? In primary school, in secondary school, that's how she engaged. Right? She would say, you know what? So here he's saying, this, if people knew about it, right, it would be a disgrace for you. It's a disgrace. Right? It's a disgrace for you. So don't ever go back to it. Don't. Right? So in a very gentle, concerned tone. Right? I'm not going to check on you. But Allah sees you. I'm sure you know Allah sees you. You know that. Right? And I know that if you know to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you mess up. Right? So that is what you're trying to instill in them. Right? At one hand, instill in them that the door of tawbah is always open. Because they're going to grow up. The door of tawbah is always open. And at the same time, instill in them, don't play with this. Right? Don't think, I sin, I tawbah. I sin, I tawbah. I sin, I tawbah. Don't play with this. Because if you play with it, Allah might just turn away from you. You don't want that. Right? So that means, that kept me on my toes lah. On my toes. And that means, so scared that Allah ever turns away from you. Right? So it's, since I was primary school, there is a dialogue that is being mentioned in the house. Right? That is what is. So that means, she will make it clear. You know what? I'm not even going to try to spy. And she never spied. Ever. See, Allah knows. If Allah wants to show me, He shows me. Dua of the mother. And Allah always showed her. Allah always shows her everything. She from her sujadah, she will be shown stuff. What do you do again? Not to check, right? At the age of puberty. Before puberty, right? Especially if you are giving them gadgets. Right? Gadgets, I would say check. Right? Don't let shaitan play with your kids. So their stuff, right, you do go through and you let it be known to them. Right? If let it be known to them that at any point in time, I'm just gonna empty your bag. Spot check, empty your bag. Any point in time. And let them know about it. So as they're growing up, right? At puberty, right, you're supposed to have trained them well enough. At puberty. So you see, when I was teaching this book previously, someone asked the question, what if I've not been doing this? And now my child's a teenager. Right? Then this advice does not apply to you. Because you have not brought up your child with taqwa. Right? So if all of this was not done in their childhood, it means from the very beginning, this was not done. The instilling of taqwa, the talking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, about Rasulullah, it was not done. And now my child is 12. What do? You have to start doing it. That means start doing this talk about taqwa, start doing this stories about Rasulullah. Start from ground zero lah. That means you don't let them be. Right? That means you still have to qada what you missed out. You must qada. Right? So you can't just, okay, you know what? He's 15, then I'm not going to check his phone anymore. If you've not been bringing him up on this, check his phone. Right? Check. Because you have not instilled in him taqwa yet. Right? So that means there is a qada going on. You have to qada what you missed out. Right? But because when I was teaching this in Tarim, and I said my mother at the point of reach puberty, she stopped waking us up for subuh. Right? And then one of the students there was saying, well, my mother, and I appreciate my mother for waking me up for subuh until I was 25. I said, until you're 25? I was like, until you're 25, your mom woke up for subuh. And she's like, yeah, and that's good because she made me pray subuh. Right? Then I was like, then in that case, she did not instill in you your own responsibility over your own subuh. Right? But that is because her younger age, it was not done. So for me, right, since I was young, it was done. Right, so at age of 12 or 13, let go. Right, because you are on autopilot. You know this. You know how important subuh is. You know how important zuhur is. She doesn't have to check on us at all. Right, so unlike someone who was not brought up that way, then at 15 you still must check. Do you pray Isha? Do you pray Maghrib? At 24 still must check. You know, if at 24 you're not handling your own solat, you have to. So I was surprised when she actually argued with me. She was like, no, I appreciate my mother still waking me up for subuh at 24. And I was like, I disagree. That was a good thing. I mean, okay, it's good she does it, but that means she did not do something when you were younger. Right? That means she missed out. She missed out. Right? That at 24, if someone has to wake up for subuh, that's an issue. It's an issue. I would say at 12. At 12. Right? At 12. In fact, the ulama here say at 9. At 9. Because at 9, you could baligh. You need to hold your religion in your own hands. You must handle your own salat. Right? I don't know what that was. I think probably the battery. Allah. So basically, I would say at 9, start training them to put their own alarm and wake themselves up for subuh, because they have to hold their subuh in their own hands. They have to. Teach them responsibility, right? And if they know they're going to stay back in school late, then let them by themselves pack their own telekong, right? If they're in secular school, right? I once read an article about this woman explaining how she got her kids to pray 5 times a day, right? And she was talking about her teenage kids, and she was saying, I will always pack for them their telekong and their prayer garment and their sejadah and whatsoever. And I was thinking in my head, my mom never did that for me. My mom never packed for me any telekong, any sejadah, nothing. She never did any of it for me. Right? But something she did when I was young made me do it for myself when I was older. What did she do? When I was young, that what I know today I will stay back in school late. Okay, telekong in the back. Done. Without her even checking. She doesn't even know whether I pray in school. She does not know whether or not I pray in school. I don't go home and report to her. Right? She has no clue when I said what I do. She has no clue when I pray Zuhur in school or not. But you pray. Why? Instill. From a very young age, instill. Do not leave the prayer. You cannot leave the prayer. The prayer, like since you're in primary school, it was never left. Right? So when she picked us up after school, I remember every Wednesday, we would go to the library. This is all like how the mother, you train your children. Every Wednesday, we'll go library. Right? So every Wednesday, she pick us up from school. She would bring us to a mosque where we would pray and change into clothes that cover our awrat. We would do it in primary school, primary 4, I remember. Primary 4, primary 5. Whatever. But basically, and then we'll go to the library. Right? Borrow books and then go home. So once a week, we go library. And so it's known. Every Wednesday, we do that. Right? So in a sense, the mother bring up. So when I'm in JC, secondary school, JC, what do? We start to do that. If you have to go somewhere after school, you cover up first. And then you go wherever you have to go after school. In a way. Right? It's instilling it. And then the prayer and whatever, never let go. Right? So then he says here, right? So say to them, if people know about this, it's disgraceful. Right? So you never go back to it. That means talking. So Imam Ghazali says, so if the second time he does this, then reprimand him secretly, and he says, وَيُعَظَّمَ لَهُ الْأَمْرِ فِيهِ, right? And make this affair great in his eyes. That means severe. So I know what you did. He says, I know the second time you're doing it. Right? And then so in a sense, speak to him in a low tone, but drive the point. This is a sin. You know that, right? You're already 10 years old. 10 years old and you're still cheating. Do you know what the cheaters are about? Do you know Rasulullah said that the cheaters, that those who cheat, they are not of us. The Muslim does not cheat. Right? So the itab, right, the scolding is on sins. Right? Sins. So if he lies, I know that you lied that day to me. You said you're going to go somewhere, but you went somewhere else. Okay, I know about it now. Can't change it. Don't give him a chance to try defend. just, you know what? Allah saw you. Okay? And you have to think about this. Think about it really hard. Think about it. And why do you go where you go? Up to you. Think about it. Right? Think about it yourself. I don't want to hear any reasons. Right? But you told me something and you did something else. Right? Just state the sin. State the sin. Dah, stop there. Full stop. Dah. No need to talk more than that. And then he says, لا يكثر عليه كلاما. Right? Don't talk to him so much. Stop. Let them be. Because the more you talk, the more they argue. The more they argue, the more you are teaching them to justify. And that is what you don't want. It's so much wisdom, what the ulama have written. And then ويقول إياك أن يطلع عليك في مثل هذا فتفتضح بين الناس ولا يكثر القول عليه بالعتاب في كل حين فإنه يهون عليه سماع الملامة وركوب القبائح ويسقط وقع الكلام في قلبه وليكون الأب حافظا هيبة الكلام معه ولا يوبخه إلا أحيانا وينبغي للأم أن يخوفه بالأب ويزجره عن القبائح. Right, so you say, right, so now when you bring him to the side secretly, what do you say? You say, be warned about this. Right? I hope you are listening. You're being warned about this. Don't do this. Right? If the people know about it, it's a terrible thing. And you know what? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saw you in what you did. Right? So when it comes to lies, really, he says it on, وَيُحَذِّرُهُ غَايَةَ التَّحْذِيرِ مِنَ الْكِذِبِ وَالْفُحْشِ وَالْفُجُورِ. And it is really warn him against these three things: lying, indecencies, right, and blatant sin. These three things needs to be so strongly warned against. We do not lie, There was a Sahaba once whereby he came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he said, Ya Rasulullah, I keep committing sins. So advise me. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam turned to him and said, don't lie. Just promise me one thing. Don't lie. So the Sahaba said, okay, that's easy enough. I can do that. Right, so he went home. Right, and then that night itself, he thought to himself, you know what? I want to go and drink some wine. I want to drink. And then he thought to himself, if I meet Rasulullah tomorrow, he might ask me, what did you do last night? Then I cannot lie. Right, so you know what? I can't drink right now because if I meet him tomorrow, I can't say that I did not drink. Right, so I can't lie. So he stopped. He didn't go drinking. Then the following night, it occurred to him he wants to go out, and meet some woman. And he thought to himself, you know what? If I meet Rasulullah tomorrow, and so every night that happened to him, whenever Shaitan would come to him and say, do this, and he would think to himself, if I meet Rasulullah tomorrow, and he asked me what I did tonight, I can't lie. So he just didn't lie, and eventually he stopped committing all his sins. Because lying is what? Lying is covering up a fault. That's what lying is. Right? So when we lie, that means you did something wrong. Right? So if you can just cut out lying, you cut out a lot of sins. You cut out a lot of wrongdoings because you just cut off lying. Right? So really warn them strongly against lying. Right? The moment you catch them lying, right, then just say that, were you lying? Were you lying? Right, in a sense, and then this, that this do not lie. The believer does not lie at all. We don't lie. We're not liars. Right. So, Muhammad. Right. So here he says, وَلَا يُكَثِرْ عِنْدَهُ الْكَلَامَ فَإِنَّهُ يُهَوِّنُ الْمَلَامَ يُخْشَى بِأَنْ يَجْزِمْ وَلَا يُبَالِ بِمَا أَتَى بَعْدَهُ مِنْ فِعَالِهِ. Right. So don't nag. Don't be too long-winded in your scolding. Don't. Be to the point. Say what you have to say. Then drop it. Don't allow argument. Don't allow justification. Don't allow any. Just say, I know this happened. State the fact. Then dah. Right? Because if you allow more talk, they get bored of you. One thing. And then your further reprimandations later on will just fall on deaf ears. They just block you out. Okay, my mother's going to nag me about it. My mother's going to go on about it. My mother's going to, and it just like, whatever lah, my mother, I don't care what she says anymore. Right? So in the sense that they become deaf towards what you have to say. You don't want that. Right? You don't want that. Right? So he says here that one word, that's it. That's it. Right? And that will impact them. That's why he has not gone into beating at all. Right? Because beating, once you beat them, right, they become numb towards beating. Beating, there's nothing at all. But if you are a parent who never hits, ever, not even hit, you never raise your voice, ever. If the day comes that you actually raise your voice or you actually hit, they will be so shocked because you've never done so. You have never done so. And Rasulullah SAW, he is described to have never raised his hand nor voice against anybody except in jihad. And they are on the defense. Right? Ever. He's never raised his hands or voice against anybody. So when the Sahaba saw his face change, straight away they will think, what did we do wrong? Straight away. He just has to show a face change, that's all. Nothing, no word from him. So Sayyidah Fatimah Zahra, once she came to Rasulullah's presence, and that is, tarbiyah, and once she came to Rasulullah's presence, and she had a gold necklace around her neck, or was a bracelet, she had gold jewelry with her. It wasn't gold, it was silver. She had silver jewelry with her, right? She came to Rasulullah's presence, and the Rasul looked at her. At first his face was beaming to see her coming towards him, and he will always do that. He'll be so happy to see his daughter Fatimah Zahra come towards him. He was at first beaming. Then when she came closer and he saw the jewelry on her, he turned away. He just turned away. Right? And for her heart sank. Straight away she knew something was wrong. Right? His face turned away. Right? He didn't even say anything. Just turned away. So she got up, she went out, she took it off. She knew what it was. She took it off. Right? In another riwayat, I think that there are a few riwayats. Some riwayat said, he asked her, where did you get it from? Right? And then she said, Abu Hassan. That means her husband, Sayyidina Ali. Abu Hassan gave it to me. My husband gave it to me. Even something like that, no, my husband gave it to me. Right? He just turned away. Right? And then she knew what it was. She got up, she took it off, she went out, she sold it, she came back, the money, she bought a slave boy, set him free, and then came back. And just by the face change of Rasulullah, she knew he was not pleased with her state. Right? Of course, but his level is, zuhud. Zuhud, nothing for my daughter. My daughter does not get any dunya at all. Right? Subhanallah. Right? But we know of teachers who are like that. You compare teachers. There are teachers that always scream. They always scream and they don't actually command respect. They actually don't. And there are teachers that are firm and silent. They teach well, but the kids are more afraid of them than they are of the screaming teacher. I mean, they respect them more, right? Because the teacher, and I know when I was teaching in some schools, that they would do my homework in the class of another teacher because they want my homework done. Right? Because not that I raise my voice, I don't raise my voice. I don't raise my voice, but it's just that, okay. Right? So it's just a few words. Makes them wake up. Right? Makes them you give them a look. You save a lot of energy also. You don't have to scream. Right? Never raise your voice. Just never raise your voice. Is it okay? Well, just say something. Say a few lines. They get the point, and then you walk away. All right. So that's what the ulama they say, and he says here, right, that this is actually on the mother. It's on the mother, right? It's actually on the mother, right, to be doing this talking, right, with the child, right? Once short talks, right? And he said, what to them, after the second time or third time, they should be stopping it. They actually should be stopping it. If you're doing this method, right, they will stop it. After the second or third time, they will not do it ever again. Right? I remember one time, right? It's like I have that references with my mother. I was in the car with her. She was sending me somewhere, right, dropping me off, right, and then she mentioned something to me, and I was like, no, that's not how it was. I raised my voice. She just looked at me. She was like, you just raised your voice on me, and she kept quiet. That was it. You just raised your voice on me. Then the whole day I was thinking about it. Why did I raise my voice? Why did I raise my voice? Why did I raise my voice? Why did I remember I was a teenager. That's all she said. You just raise your voice on me. Dah. Not even like what you say, well, nothing. You just raise your voice on me. And the me is I'm your mother. Right? I mean, she didn't say that, but I knew what it meant. That means you just raise your voice on your mother. What? Like, how dare you? But she didn't say any of that. Her tone said it all. She just stated a fact. You just raise your voice on me. Dah. Ever since then, never again. Ever. Never again. Right? Because it hit me so hard. Like her soft words. Dah. Right? So, alhamdulillah. This sometimes you hold it's called, you hold a dignity in yourself. That your child takes you seriously. You just say one thing and dah. So Imam Ghazali is saying, don't let yourself be numb towards your child. Right? Or your words bounce off. Don't be that parent. Right? Don't be the parent whereby your words bounce off. No. Be the parent whereby the one sentence goes straight to the heart. Right? And they wake up. Because you want to be that parent. Because when they do something wrong, when they mess up whatever in their future, whatever, you want to be that parent who tells them off one time and they pay attention, right, to what you have to say. Right? Be that parent. Right? So subhanallah. So we never expected this to be a chapter of reprimanding. The chapter on discipline, never expected this to ever be the chapter. Still no rod. The rod is still not mentioned. And then he speaks about the father. He says the father is Imam Ghazali's words. Imam Ghazali's words. The father is to maintain a dignity about himself, a haiba. A haiba is like the Malay word hibat. But the father has a haiba. The father has a presence. Right? And the father is not used until it has become serious. Right? So as far as possible, the father is not used. Right? The father is left by himself. Right? So the father, and we know at a young age, the father is being used whenever he's getting out of hand. And the father call your father straight away. Every boy is a good boy. Call the father. Right? So and that is what Islam also recognizes. The father has a station. And calling the father does things to the child's, psychology. Right? Straight away, they have this thing about the father. Even though the father has never hit them, never raised his voice, never done anything to them, just the mention of I call your father, straight away, right? There's an effect on the child. Right? So he says, Imam Ghazali says here that the father, right, is to maintain his dignity with the child, his presence, right? Not to raise his voice. Again, the father does not raise his voice, nor his hand. Right? Does not. Right? And the father only reprimands sometimes. Every now and then, when it is absolutely necessary. Right? If not, the mother does it. Right? Of course, for single families, or single parents, right, that it gets a bit harder. Because now the mother is trying to play two roles. And that is hard. That's why the orphan, it is difficult on the orphan. Right? Because the mother needs to be one parent needs to be the gentler one. And one is more the serious one. They have to play that roles, and they can switch roles each time. Anytime. They can actually switch roles, right? But so the single parent is a struggle, right? Because you have to be that. So the ulama, they go on the side of be a gentle parent, right? Don't be because if you are if you're going to be harsh with your child in the home, your child's going to run somebody else, right? So still be the place whereby they run to. So if you're a single parent, then take the approach of gentleness, right? But if there are two parents in the picture, husband and wife, right? Then the mother is the gentle one, right? The father is also gentle, right? But the father only comes into the picture when he is needed. That means when the mother tak jalan, right? The mother is being completely ignored, right? And that is very rare actually, right? If you follow these things, right? At the age after tamyiz, the mother will be given, she will be listened to, right? Inshallah. Okay. And then he says here, right? قلت وينبغي أن يستعمل هذه الآداب من الأكابر للأصاغر للأصاغر من الرجال والنساء والكاملين في تجاسر والإخفاء بما ذكر فهو من السياسة الأدبية المؤثرة واختار الأكثر من الصوفية البقاء مع صحبة من حصلت منه هفوة بمعصية برجاء. Right, so وعسى أنه يستحي فيرجع ويعود إلى التوبة وإذا هجر ربما تجاسر وخلع برقع الحياة. Alright, برقع الحياة. Right, so he says here, right, right, so he says here, right, that this, so basically these methods, right, it can be used also with adults, right, it can be used, of those who are old, use it on those who are young, and also use on your students, your teenagers, whatever, right, you still use these methods of reprimanding. All of these methods came from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's actually nowhere in this book about hitting. If you're waiting for it, there's nowhere in this book about hitting. He does not mention it at all. Right. So that's why there was once I put a post on Facebook about it, right, about parents who are so quick to hit the child, and the child is not even tamyiz. Right. Tamyiz is terrible. Right. I mean, not tamyiz is terrible for you to hit the child. Right. Because non-tamyiz means the brain has not completely formed, right? So because I saw my own, I've seen people like 2-year-old spill water, twist the ears. 2 years old, what does she know about water and spilling water? Right? Don't do that. Don't be that parent. Right? There's like no mercy. Right? The child is still figuring things out. Even if they did something naughty and they mess things up and they hit each other, right? They're still not tamyiz. You have to understand that they are not tamyiz. So there is no rod. There is no rod below tamyiz. Even above tamyiz, no rod. Until 10 years old. And that one is so serious that he left the prayer. After 10 years, all these years you've been reminding on the prayer. At 10, still don't want to pray. Right? And then also just, wake up. That's it. So Islam, this whole thing about caning and everything is nowhere found. Rasulullah, you never hear a single, situation that he did it, right? And in fact, of the whipping in the hudud laws, right? When you drink alcohol or whatever, there are whips, right? Even that, right, is on an adult, right? Who is found to do that in the open, right? So it means someone who, subhanallah, subhanallah. The religion tells us so much about the adab when it comes to reprimanding. Right? Just before I end, right, this one thing that my teacher mentioned about schools, right? If you have a group of children and someone does something wrong, right? Okay, that is a different ballgame altogether. Eh? So it's not a wrong done in secret; it's a wrong done within a group, right? The danger here is influence, right? There's a bigger danger here, influence. So if one of them begins to, for example, say bad words, right, in front of everybody else, as the teacher, what do you do? Right? Or even if you're a parent, with your kids and their cousins, right? So your kids and cousins and there are other children around, and you see bad things happening, right? One of them brings a bad thing into the group, right? So the ulama say step by step. The first step, you bring that person to the side, right? And you inform them that it's not right, that it's not allowed, right? Don't talk so much, but basically very firmly mention that it is something that is not favorable. Right? We don't say bad words. We are Muslims. We don't say bad words. Right? It's filthy. It's filthy to say bad words. You don't say bad words. So you warn them first time round. Second time round, same thing. If the person does it again within the group, again you pull them aside and you warn them again. Right? Third time round, when they do it in front of everybody else, you warn them in front of everybody else. Because now it's a sin done in the open, right? I mean, from the beginning it was done in the open, but you're doing it, the reprimanding happens secretly, right? So now third time round, they do it, means after 2 times, 2 strikes, you already warn them secretly not to do this. They still do it in front of everybody else, that means still do the foul words, Right? So then in front of everybody else say that is not acceptable. We don't accept that in our family. We don't accept that in our, basically you make it known. This is something that we don't do. Right? And then the ulama said that if they do it again, then it's like fourth time, right? Then there has to be some sort of punishment, right? So a slight punishment of go and stand in the corner, right? They have like rukun taubat, right? In Tahrim, rukun taubat, that means the corner of taubat. There's a corner of taubat. Sit there and think of what you did, right? There's a carpet taubat, right? Taubat carpet, right? So when you sit there, you taubat. Right, so and then they are told to do like how many istighfar and whatsoever. Right, they do that. If they still do it after 5 times of warning and after the rukun taubat and whatsoever, they still do it, then the ulama say they have to be separated from the rest of the children, because now the danger is, they are being very bold against sin. So they need to be separated. That means if your children are around them, if it's your own child, you separate your child. That means you're not allowed to play with everybody else because you don't have good behavior, right? You're not allowed to play with everybody else, right? Or if it's someone else's child, then you keep your child away from that person, right? Because the child is not a good influence on your child. This is after tamyiz, yes. After tamyiz. Before tamyiz is reminder. Because after tamyiz, they begin to have shame. They begin to feel, ashamed of, and they begin to feel shyness. They begin to feel that you embarrass me, you ridicule me, whatsoever. Before tamyiz, they're not so. They're not so. You can scold them anyhow. I mean, not scold them anyhow, but you can basically reprimand them in front of their friends. They don't really care. Like if you reprimand them in front of their friends. After tamyiz, they care. They care that you do something to them in front of their friends. Right? That's why it's important that the first few times you do it secretly. Thereafter, you still want to do it openly. Okay? And then the reprimand will come in the open. Right? That is, if they are influencing other people. Right? But all sins in secret should be reprimanded in secret, no matter how many times. Right? As long as it's in secret, you reprimand in secret. Right? And alhamdulillah. Okay, alhamdulillah. So that is that part. Right? So the next part, inshallah, next week we will go into what you warn them against. Right? And then we're already reaching Baligh. We're reaching Baligh already. Right, so once you reach Baligh, he's gonna, and this part of Baligh, of the Bulugh, right, I hope that you can write it down somewhere in English, whatsoever, that when they actually reach Baligh, you go into these points. It means you read this part out to them. You actually read this part out to them. I know the parts that they have to understand at the point of Bulugh, because you're going to be preparing them for death. That means at Bulugh, focus death. Well, that's it. From now until Bulugh, you're going to be counted whatever you do. Done. Alright, so and I've done my duty with you. Right now at Baligh, it's like the ulama, they're serious about this. Because Baligh, the religion begins to count. Right, everything is written at Bulugh. So why in the world do we put it off? That later we can teach them. No. Right, the moment they are 7, you become serious. Because at 9 they can Baligh. I mean, especially if you have girls, If you have girls, right, 9 she can Baligh. And she's held responsible in this religion for all that she does. So at 7, you have 2 years to get this down. Right, boys in Shafi Mazhab at 9 also can Baligh. And boys also. Right, so you don't know when your boy is going to Baligh. I had a friend, her boy Baligh at 11. She was shocked. They were not prepared for her son to Baligh at 11. Right, but he told them, I already Baligh at 11. And she was like, he dropped the bomb on us. And he just dropped it and told us that he's Baligh at 11. And none of us expected it. Right, so in the Shafi'i Mazhab, anywhere from 9 to 15. Okay, so we are aiming at 9. In case it happens at 9. Sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Wa barik ala zakana wa nafi'u wa khalis maqbul. Wa husna ta'alim wa dalala ala huda. ويسر لنا صلى الله عليه وسلم وإلى أرواح معلمين ومشايخنا ولا أترى بسم الله وعزل والفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. الحمد لله رب العالمين.